Music.
Hi everyone, Clearthany Flem Tano here.
Next to video games and anime, music has always been a part of my life, so much so that originally, before I became a YouTuber, I tried to become a music artist. But then I listened to Q-Tip when he said, "Industry rule number 4080, record company people are shady," and the rest is history. But I decided while working on this SMT5 video, I might as well give y'all a little something to hold y'all till then. That wasn't a fucking review, because I know I am guilty of that. So with that said, welcome one and all to my top 10 favorite gaming soundtracks. And it was either between this or my top 10 games of all time, and yeah, that one would have been very, very difficult. Now before we get started, let's set up a couple rules and disclaimers for this video. Alright, rule number one is that I'm only going to be covering one game per franchise, so not only will it be easier for myself, but it'll also prevent me from making a list that's filled with only Persona, Kingdom Hearts, or Sonic games. The second rule is that I need you guys to be civil in the comments. Now understand that this list is from my own opinion. You might like something that I don't like, or in the off chance, I forget to mention one of your favorite gaming soundtracks. Understand that this has been a list that I've formed, again, from my own opinion. Just because there's something that you don't like, it does not give you the right to harass me or anyone in the comments who wants to share their own opinion. So keep it nice, keep it tidy, and if you do not have anything nice to say, you can throw that shit in the trash. Thank you. And finally, as a disclaimer, do not expect me to go Anthony Fantano on this video. While I have a bit of music theory knowledge, I can't go beyond talking a very small bit about melodies and harmonies. Though if we're talking about rhythm, yeah, I'm your man. And with that out the way, let's start off this list with number 10.
The House of the Dead 3.
Kicking off our list is House of the Dead 3, which out of all the games in this series, I really like. Now the best way to describe the soundtrack for this game is urgency and orchestra. Mind you, this is an arcade game and they brought out all the guns for this shit. One thing I really enjoy about this soundtrack is the progression of these songs starting calm and picking up as you go through each stage. That sense of urgency makes sense, especially with the main plot point being to save our protag's dad. Now the only thing that really holds this back to being a really great soundtrack is the fact that the songs are pretty boring and there's not a lot of variety to them. Once you hear a few seconds of each track, it slowly starts to blend into each other. But I do recommend checking out the main theme for this game and the final boss theme. It's only two because if you listen to both of them, you'll kind of get a gist of what this soundtrack is. Number 9. What the fuck? Okay, before y'all say anything, hear me out real quick. Now, despite this game playing like the equivalent of Raisin Bran cereal, the soundtrack is surprisingly good. Like, no, for real, this soundtrack should not be this good. The tracks are based on the characters on the roster, and every one of them has some catchy-ass tunes. Trunks' theme sounds like he's some CEO walking around with his nuts hanging, and the villain themes are very dark and foreboding, with a lot of the melodies and harmonies having very low octaves. But if the character has another version of them, then that character actually gets their own themes as well. And the three that instantly come to mind are Super Saiyan Trunks, Super Saiyan 4 Goku, and Super Saiyan Vegeta. Now the first two are similar, with them sounding like people are singing on it. Super Saiyan Trunks singing comes from his melody, which sounds like they're singing a verse, pre-verse, chorus, and all the other shit. But then you got Super Saiyan 4 Goku, which actually has lyrics to them, and they're actually not that bad, even though they're mostly in Japanese. Super Saiyan Vegeta doesn't really have anything that sounds like singing, but the percussion on this theme goes hard as hell, with the kick drum adding this intensity that can make anyone feel motivated, but I'm also pretty sure it's to show that Vegito is strong as hell. But why is it this low on the list if I really like those tracks? Well, because besides some of the other ones, a lot of the other tracks are very unremarkable in my opinion. Now, if you're interested in the soundtrack, I do recommend checking out the 3 themes that I mentioned before, because those are easily the best tracks of this whole entire game. Number 8. Okay, if we were to specifically talk about the music that plays when exploring the different areas of the game, then this would have been at around number 9, but what saves it for me is the battle themes and the main theme of this game. You see, the song If You Still Believe is such a great theme, and the singer has a really nice voice that complements the production, and a lot of moments in this song have keys where it slightly goes up an octave, and it may not seem special to like the normal listener, but man, I fucking love this kind of stuff. Now, the battle music, despite how jarring it sounds, and believe me, it is weird going from like a fantasy type music to just like techno, EDM type shit, but nonetheless, it's really good and pretty catchy, and once the battle ends, it does this little cool breakdown and continues, which kind of sounds like this. Yeah, that's actually pretty cool. Now, for Legend of Dragoon, I do recommend checking out If You Still Do Believe. That is a very beautiful song. And this one's going to sound a little crazy, but I do recommend checking out all the battle themes that are present in that game. Because honestly, to me, they were probably like the best part of the whole entire game. So yeah, they might be a little jarring compared to some of the other songs, but it's still good nonetheless. Number 7. Man, this soundtrack is great, but if you're wondering why I'm not playing any of the songs on there, it's because... Regardless though, this soundtrack has a great blend of rock and rap music that works really well with each other, oddly enough. One moment you'll be skating, listening to the Red Hot Chili Peppers, then it'll make a clean switch to Redman, and come to find out, there is another soundtrack for this game with songs that are inspired by it. It only has 2 tracks in it that are in the actual game, but if they added the other 11 songs on here, I would have put this in my top 5. Though it is a crime that Bombs Over Baghdad by Outkast wasn't in here. That shit would have been amazing. So, for the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 soundtrack, I had to pull it up on my phone because I forgot to put it on the damn script. Yeah, no reason for that one. But for songs that you should check out on there, it's easily Red Hot Chili Peppers' Fight Like a Brave, KRS-One's Hush, Redman's Let's Get Dirty, and Dale the Funky Homo Sapien, If You Must. Number 6. Katamari Damashi is a ridiculous game where you roll motherfuckers up in a ball and send it to fucking space. With that premise, you'd think that the soundtrack would also sound like that. Yes and no, oddly enough. There are some wild songs on here like the opening track and Fugue 777, okay, whatever, which sounds really, really weird. Like, I can't even describe the crazier songs besides that it's catchy, yet chill for some reason. But then there's tracks like Lonely Rolling Star, which feel more comforting, catchy, and very light when it comes to its melodies. Now, I am curious about the composer of this game because I want to know what they were going through when making the music. And I know YouTubers will love to say that Japanese music composers were always on crack, but I don't even think it was that. I think it was more like LSD, or hell, whatever they were on, I want in too. Because if you can make some shit sound like this,
I know you love me. I wanna word you up into my life. Let's roll up to be a single star in the sky.
damn motherfucker, I want it. Now for Katamari Damashi, I do recommend checking out Lonely Rolling Star, Kisera? I'm not sure how to exactly pronounce it, but that's just my best guess. Which, by the way, is an amazing bossa nova track. If you like that genre of music, trust me, you're gonna love that one. And finally, Katamari on the Rocks, which is the opening song for the game, and it's just iconic. Now we're approaching the top 5. However, before we continue, there are some other soundtracks that I want to mention despite not making the list. Hell, if you guys enjoyed this video, I'll do a part 2 because I have more gaming soundtracks that I think are bangers. Anyway, let's start off with the first honorable mention, No More Heroes.
Fuckhead!
So yeah, this game is bonkers as hell, and the soundtrack is the same case. Admittedly, some of the songs start to blend when you hear the leitmotif of over like 20 times. But the boss music is the biggest highlight of this game, specifically Bad Girl. That boss theme is great, and the rhythm of the kick and snare paired with the sharp yet heavily filtered vocals creates this interesting call and response situation with the music. Now if you want to check out the soundtrack for yourself, make sure to check out the Bad Girl and the main theme if you get a chance. The second honorable mission has to go to Revelations Persona and the PSP version of Persona. Now despite how different these two soundtracks are, I love them each for their own reasons. Revelations Persona has a lot of atmospheric tracks that help create this creepy tone that the game has. Meanwhile, the PSP version of Persona has a lot of catchy tracks and is reminiscent of Persona 3. And the openings of the PSP version is honestly top tier for this breakdown alone. Now, if you decide to check that one out, I recommend listening to Deadline for the PS1 version and The Bloody Destiny for the PSP version. Now, the final honorable mention I want to bring up is Mach X, a game I was supposed to review until it triggered my motion sickness Something Fierce. Other than that though, this soundtrack is great. It has a mixture of industrial music and drum and bass, where some areas kind of tone back with the music and has this, atmospheric vibe to it. Others will start introducing some dynamic shit that'll start to get you moving. It's also the epitome of late 90s and early 2000s EDM. Now, if you want to check out this soundtrack for yourself, check out Amsterdam, and no, not the city, that's the actual title for the song, and the final boss theme. Alright, so with that out the way, let's continue on the list, starting with number 5! So, a little fun fact about me. From time to time, I have these moments where I get deeply engrossed in different games, whether it be from a post that I've seen on Twitter that made me interested in said game, or just pure curiosity that ultimately leads into brain rot. And Dirt Strike was one of those games, not just because of Evo Moment 37, but it was also for its music. Next to Street Fighter 4, Third Strike is one of my favorites in the Street Fighter franchise, not just in the gameplay, but well, in the music as well. The moment you boot this bitch up, all you get is nothing but good old hip hop. That sounds very familiar to the type of shit that Mobb Deep was putting out around that time. Now the intro movie has a very chill yet empowering vibe to its music, as it gets you really pumped up to play it. And then you have the character select theme, which next to Marvel vs. Capcom 2 in my opinion is very legendary. Now, the rest of the soundtrack is based on the themes of the characters in the game. All of these guys' themes are based around drum and bass, and some, like Gil's, feels pretty tense because this is the final fight, and Makoto's being energetic, which represents her determination. Now, my favorite has to be Elena's and Ken's theme, who has a lot of house influence in their themes. And honestly, I could go even further, but I'm gonna say that for the eventual Street Fighter video later this year. So for Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, I do recommend checking out Ken's theme, Akuma's theme, and Elena's theme. But I'll also add in Let's Get It On, which is the character select theme for that game as well. Number 4! Okay, I'm not even gonna hold you. I was bound to put a Sonic game in here, but for which one was difficult as fuck. Besides Unleashed, I had 3 games to choose from, being Sonic Rust, Sonic Adventure 2, and Sonic Riders. Sonic Adventure 2 came close, but was beaten out by Unleashed for the pure fact that the daytime stages are adrenaline-fueled awesomeness.
Oh my god! Oh jeez! Oh my god! Oh,
all catchy as hell, and some tracks even have strings in them, which is another thing I'm a slut for. But what puts this game on the list over all the other Sonic games I mentioned was the main theme, Endless Possibilities, Rooftop Run, and the final boss theme, which my 10-year-old self played repeatedly on my iPod. Now admittedly, I could have used some of the other Sonic games I mentioned, but this one was just too good not to put on here. And I'm not sure if this could be considered a controversial opinion, but the music for the night stations have great pieces too, which would have been redeemed if it wasn't for... Oh god damn it, shut it off! Now before we go on to our next soundtrack, I do recommend checking out Endless Possibilities, which is a great opening song, Rooftop Run for the day stage, and The Dragon's Road for the day stage as well. Number 3... SMT2 soundtrack is something that I consider to be one of the best on the Super Nintendo. Hell, I would actually consider this to be the better one out of all the other JRPGs, just for the pure fact of how otherworldly the music is. While most of the music has a smooth riding bass line and drum track to make dungeon crawling bearable, the moment the music turns on for some of the cutscenes, you will be amazed that songs like this it's coming from a Super Nintendo game. So like, I gotta give props to Tsukasa Masako on that. And I might have been riding on Kazuka's dick for like the past 2 games, and it's gonna happen for 5 especially, but Masako really gave a lot of life to these tracks, and it complements this mysterious tone that the game's story portrays. Now there are other versions of the game, such as the PS1 port and the GBA port, but I'm not really a fan of how they sound. The GBA port does not sound out good because of its, well, hardware limitations, and I'm really mixed on the PS1 version because some of the songs translate really well, while the other ones are just meh, like this. However, I do gotta give the PS1 version slack for one reason and one reason only, for the theme theme that we would eventually get in Nocturne, so I'll have to give them that. Now for SMT2, if you want to check out that soundtrack, I do recommend checking out the SNES version, and specifically you should check out the Neutral theme and the Law theme. Both of those are the ones that sound otherworldly, and honestly, it's my favorite tracks in those games. It's so fucking good. Number 2.
Radio lifestyle. You skate, you groove, you bomb bricks, and run from the man.
Okay, real quick, let me bring Sonic back to the forefront here, because if you have played Sonic Rush, then you might be familiar with this composer being everybody's favorite funny Twitter man, Hideki Naganuma. Now, you can say whatever about his weird postings on Twitter, but if there's one thing that this man can do, is that he can cook up an amazing ass soundtrack, and this is one of them. And the main reason why I love this Jet Set Radio soundtrack is how he utilizes sampling. Now for those who may not know what sampling is the process of taking a piece from one song and transforming it to something else entirely for another. Now hip hop is one of the biggest genres that does this, and while people will say that, oh, it's stealing this shit, I wouldn't say so, but that is as far as I'm gonna go with that. But sampling is one of the major things that Jet Set Radio is known for, and you can tell he's pretty good with it and placing these samples or changing them for a new context. Now there's other songs I think that were produced by different artists like Reps, Castle Logical, F Fields, Toronto, BB Wrights, and Richard Jacquez, who you might recognize from Sonic R. There's also licensed songs on here as well, but not from artists I really recognize. Plus, come to find out, this soundtrack isn't exclusively hip-hop, but the soundtrack expands to other genres like dance, funk, rock, acid jazz, a little bit of J-pop, and trip-hop. All genres that I actually really fuck with, though I'm gonna have to check out the whole trip-hop bit a little bit more because I'm very interested. Now for Jet Set Radio, I damn near recommend you to listen to the entire soundtrack. That's just my personal opinion, but if you want to have 3 songs to listen to first, I recommend listening to Humming the Bassline, Let Mom Sleep, and Funky Radio. And number 1. If you were to ask a Persona fan what their favorite soundtrack is in the series, I guarantee you that most, if not all people, will say that Persona 4's soundtrack is literal gas. Anything, and I mean anything I can say about this soundtrack has likely been said. What's the best dungeon theme in the game? Heaven. What's an overall track that slaps? Heartbeat and Heartbreak. And what's the best opening song? Shadow World. And if you said that, you're a damn lie, cause both that and Pursuing the Truth are great opening songs. See, we don't have to fucking bicker about which opening song is the best. But no, for real, this soundtrack is one of my favorites. The hip-hop and R&B influences are strong, with most of the tracks here and the battle music being pretty memorable, especially Time to Make History, which despite Reach Out to the Truth being the more iconic song, I just like the energy of history more. Now, in general, Golden brought in some great tracks, but my god, out of all of them, Snowfall is my most favorite. It is a very emotional song that has actually brought me to the verge of tears. And in retrospect, it isn't even that sad of a song, but it left that strong of an impression on me. Now, whenever y'all get a chance, I do recommend checking out Heaven, Time to Make History, and Snowfall. And with that, thank you guys so much for watching until the end of the video. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to put down your favorite gaming soundtracks down in the comments below. I would love to see which ones your guys' favorite is, and hell, if this video does well enough, I might do another one. It's actually guaranteed I'm probably going to do another one, but I mean... But next time I see you guys, we're finally going to be ending the SMT retrospect with SMT5. And I am really looking forward to this one. I have a couple guests on board for this one. And yeah, it's also going to be a really fun one to make. I am still going through the game right now, almost done. And eventually I got to fight Shiva. Like always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to press the little bell notification so you guys know when the next video is going to be coming out. And make sure to stay safe, wear a mask out there because it's getting crazy. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace!